Okay, today we're going to go over the CECH A01 and focus on the last three, the letter with the combination of the numbers. Those are the model numbers, and there's so many different ones, but about 90% of all yellow lighted desks are fixed with the reflow process that is done right. So if done right, you should be able to repair your board. So if you need to get to a teardown, I made it simple to made a video of a teardown, made a video of a reinstall. So we wanted to get to the core. This once we've taken out all the screws, and this board is a little different than the teardown video that I had, and should just simply come on out, but has a couple of clips I wanted to kind of go over with everybody. And you just take your little flathead screwdriver and kind of go from there, and they just pop right on out. Now once you have this on reversed upside down, you want to take the fan assembly off and the BIOS battery, or a CMOS battery, whatever you want to call it, and that should just come right on off. Now what you want to notice right here is that this is a white paste. We're going to have to clean this off with a rag, and then we're going to use some rubbing alcohol to further clean it. And then we're going to, after the reflow, we're going to put some Arctic Silver onto it. I'm going to show you how to spread that properly. So we'll put this aside, and we're going to continue to take apart the. Should just lift right on up, and you just put this little piece on the side there. If you have difficulties getting these apart, just take your time with it. Some of the like little plastic pieces come up here. I like to bend this apart a little bit, just to watch out, because you might strip some of the grounding rods that are for the yeah, this one's being a little difficult right here. They're on the plugins right there. So looks like a couple of screws right here. Again, every unit is different. Like the other unit I showed you on how to tear down, actually had the case for the hard drive on the outside. So okay, so now that we have this apart, I like to get something that's about a ½ inch. You don't want to get anything that has any any ability to create static electricity. And that's one other point I wanted to make, is that you don't want to do this while you're standing on carpet. Carpet creates static electricity. You touch this. I have a grounding strip here, and so that doesn't create any more damage to the board than you actually wanted to, because then you'll be damaging it further that you won't be able to repair, because you won't be able to diagnose the actual damage that has done. So at this point, I like to just take a rag and clean all these pieces off, and just basically get that all off there. So that's going to be phase one of the cleaning, and then just take your brush and just move all your pieces around that's left over. What happens is that this thermal paste that they use isn't a very good compound, and basically over in time basically doesn't, let me get some of this rubbing alcohol, doesn't really absorb all of the heat, and then starts drying out, and then does a reverse effect. And I like to take rubbing alcohol. That's what we used when we were repairing chips. It dries up fast. It does not have any electrolytes in it that could damage the chip any further. But basically, you just want to clean this pretty thoroughly. Get on all four sides there. And it's a pretty simple job. Just get it all nice and clean. You can see some of it still coming off there. Okay, and it'll end up drying. And then so I'm going to just go ahead and do the same to the top of the basically where the heat sinks are at, and next to the fan. Just going to just rub this all off here, and then I'm going to take the rubbing alcohol and clean that. Okay, let's get into the reflow process, because this is where a lot of people seem to fail when they're actually doing the reflow of the GPU and the CPU. GPU has RSX on it. It may be a little bit thicker and larger, but that seems to be the proper airflow. It doesn't get underneath there and cool it down, especially when the thermal paste starts to, well, not act like it's itself anymore. The reason why I use this half-inch piece right here is because of these pins that go into the power supply. Well, make a long story short is that you also want to keep your board level, because we're going to reflow it. Now I like to turn it over upside down. You get a heat gun at any hardware store, but I'm going to fast forward through this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the board up. I'm going to spend 30 seconds on here, and then when I flip it over nice and level, I'm going to spend another 30 seconds reflowing the board, and then I'm going to spend a minute and a half on each piece here. And then when we get done here, I'm going to fast forward that and actually show you how to actually apply the thermal paste. It's not just a gunk on there. It's a nice smooth little small application, and kind of go from there. So I use a clock on my phone to help keep the time for me. And we're off. I like to keep the low setting on here. Again, I like to start out on the second side. Nice, 30 seconds. We're just going to heat the board up so that the whole board has a process to actually take the application. So, and here's the GPU and the CPU. It's a nice and heat up around that, so that solder, when it actually gets hot enough, it's about 30 seconds, actually will take. So I'm going to fast forward to the end of this. So another 30 seconds of heating the board up on this side, then a minute and a half, between a minute and a half and 2 minutes. I want to go more, but most importantly is I wouldn't turn it on high, because you're just going to burn up the chips. And you want to keep it in a circular motions about a half an inch. Do not touch the chips. Remember, we are just reflowing the solder joints on here, and well, just make it. If you touch it, might as well go buy another motherboard. Okay, now that we have a minute and a half to 2 minutes on each chip, in circular motions about a half an inch away on low setting on the Drill Master or any type of other heat gun, it's about between 500 to 700 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty hot. The other setting is about 950 plus, which can burn up the chips. But this is where a lot of people fail. They fail to not warm up the board, and they fail to cool down the board too fast. When you do that, when you cool down the board too fast, then you create basically bad solder connections. Remember, these are very micro, thin ball joint solder connections, so they're just barely touching each connection because they're so minute. So if you have one bad connection on here, you just need to reflow the whole board again properly. So if it's summertime, about 45 seconds, keep the heat gun on low, go over the whole board, about 45 seconds, about 6 to 8 inches away from the board. And if it's winter time, I do this for about a minute and a half, or you just take it to a room temperature area. You don't want to freeze it. You don't want to stick it in a place where it's going to create those bad solder joints. Okay, at this point we're going to go ahead and pause the video. So I like to let it sit here nice and level, no movement around here, for at least a half an hour. You can do it in 15 minutes, but I like to give it a good half hour. So I'll see you in a half hour, and we'll apply the thermal paste on here, and we'll go from there. Alright, thank you. Okay, now that we have the reflow process done, we're going to apply the Arctic Silver, and we're just going to make nice thin strips. Not too much. You don't want to gunk this on here. You want to cover the board evenly. And I'm just going to use a card here that's, kind of plastic, like you can find at, like Safeway, those key cards there, and just apply it all over evenly across the board. And you're probably going to have to put a little bit more on here, but you just want a thin strip across here. You don't want it to be gunked on, because then it's not going to help the heat flow process. And don't go out and get some cheap thermal compound, just due to the fact that it will probably end up overheating your board again. So nice even all over, and voila. Now you can put together the board from here and test it out, and if it doesn't take, which is going to be about 10%, trust me guys, if you did this properly, you refloated the board, you reflowed the chips, let it cool down properly, this should take. If it does not take, I do have some other instructions down the description point below. So just reassemble it back, put it together, test it out, and start playing. If you're doing this for a business, I get about 3 of these boards in a week, and every single time I get a board in, I'm going to start doing videos. I do apologize for the lack of narrative. I'm not a movie producer. I just fix these boards, and I'll probably hit on a couple other points on some other boards. If you have any questions, just put in a comment down in the descriptions, and I can answer them for you. But please like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get some more updates on the Xbox 360s. And if I get any Wii's in, I'll be doing that. But I get usually about 1 Xbox 360 and about 2 or 3 PS3s a week. It really depends on the week itself, and I'll videotape them and go from there. And we'll hit on every single type of repairs needed. Again, if you want a whole step-by-step instructions of other failures and problems that you have with both the Xbox 360, the Wii, and the PS3, I have a PDF file down there. So thank you very much, and I hope this works out for you. If it doesn't, let me know, and maybe we can help repair it. Thank you.